you can't you can't get too far away from home that something don't pop up. Got a little story of my own while we're at it. I'm in Qingdao, China.
You went to China?
I went to China for 14 years.
Really?
I traveled. I was a buyer for a company, and then I went in business for myself, and I went on my own for about 10 years.
What did you buy?
Building products.
For who?
Well, I bought them for XL fasteners at one time, and then I went into my own business with any sales, and I bought for myself, of course, and I brought containers in. But
kind of similar to Agri Supply and Garner. That's kind of how they.
Hey, I used to sell them product.
Smart man. He's a smart man.
Well, they found out who I was buying product from. I go to China one trip, and there's Don in there, the head buyer over there at Agri Supply. He's there. And I said, what were you doing here? He said, I'm cutting you out. And he did. But that's another story. But anyhow, I'm in Qingdao, China. I get into Qingdao about 11 o'clock at their time, which is, at that particular time, it was 11 o'clock at night. Well, it was 11 o'clock at night there. It was 11 o'clock during the day here.
12 hours different.
12 hours different. And I fly into Beijing. I've got a car waiting for me. He drives me to Qingdao, and I check into the hotel that I normally stay at when I'm there. And about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't sleep no more. It's time for me to be wide awake. And outside, I go down to the restaurant and get me something to eat. So I go downstairs and go to the restaurant, and I walk in. It's a big old room. One side's got glass windows like it is here. And when they usher me in, there's a man sitting across the room against the outside windows at a table. He's the only one there. Nobody else in the restaurant. They set me down on the opposite side from him. We're across from one another. And I sat down at the table, and the little waiter, he comes over and he said, can I help you? And I said, yeah. I said, I'd like a couple of eggs, soft scrambled, bacon. I know they don't have grits, so I said, hash browns. You have hash browns? Yes, we have hash browns. I said, toast. And do you have any American coffee? He said, oh, yes, we have, good to the last drop. I said, yeah, that's what I want. I want a cup of Maxwell. So he takes off. And he's got out of the room, and this guy sitting across the room over there said, hey, buddy. I turned. He said, what part of North Carolina are you from? I said, North Carolina? He said, yeah, I'm halfway around the world now. He said, yeah, what part of North Carolina are you from? I said, a little place you ain't never heard tell of. He said, where's that? And I said, a little place called Spivey's Corner, North Carolina. He said, oh, I know where that's at. That's where Highway 421 and Highway 13 cross. I said, yeah. I said, where are you from? I caught his accent about that time. I said, where are you from? He said, a little place you ain't never heard tell of. I said, where's that? He says, Grays Creek, North Carolina. I said, Grays Creek, 18 miles as the crow flies. Mm-hmm. We're halfway around the world.
What a small
world. I said, man, what are you doing over here? He said, well, I'm buying lumber. I said, lumber? He said, yeah. He said, my family makes furniture. And I said, not around Grays Creek. He said, oh, no. He said, I married an Army brat. He said her daddy was a general out at Fort Bragg. And when he retired from the Army, he went back home. He said he was from Pennsylvania. And his family made furniture. And he said when his parents passed away, everything was divvied up, and he got the furniture factory. And he said, of course, he wanted his daughter up there where he was at, and he said he finally talked us into moving up there, and he said I went to work in the factory. And he said I worked my way up different jobs, and he said now I'm the buyer. I do the buying for the factory. And he said I can buy wood here, good quality wood here, cheaper than I can buy it in America. I said, I realize that. I know what you're talking about. And he said, what are you here for? I said, well, I have a little company that I sell building products. I sell metal products mostly. And I'm over here, I buy different metal products. And he said, I can't believe I've come over here and seen somebody that I right at home. And he said, did you ever go to Williams Lake? I said, man, I grew up at Williams Lake. I said, from the time I was about 14-year-old, Clayton Williams would let me come in there, and I was way underage, but he'd still let me go in. I said, that's where I learned how to shag at. I said,
Williams. They had big acts.
Oh, we had big bands there too.
Yes, sir.
For that day.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I said that. I grew up on that floor over. He said, I bet we run into one another and didn't even know who we were. I said, probably did. He said, because me and him were about the same age at the time. And he said, man, I used to enjoy going to Williams Lake. He said that was the only place out in the middle of nowhere that they had something going on all the time. I said, yeah. I said, Mr. Clayton had something going on all the time, all through the week. And he said,
how many people have gotten married because they went to Williams Lake?
Oh, man, you can't imagine.
That man has made more families than anybody else around here.
He's made more young ones than he ever realized. But he said, I got good memories of Williams Lake. I said, I have too. And I said, I did enjoy that place. I said, I rode over one time with William C. Lee. He was 16, I was 14. And I said, I got in there and all the boys were standing around the walls, around the building. And some of them was standing around. I said, I was standing over next to the rail where you could look over in the lake. Brim was making beds down around underneath the rail. And I said, I couldn't figure it out. All the boys standing around the rails and all the girls was out there in the middle of the floor dancing with one another. And I said, the only one that was out there with them dancing was Earl Taylor. Earl Taylor was the only one out there dancing with them girls. Maybe one or two more boys, and that was it. The rest of them was dancing with one another. I thought, something ain't right about this picture. I said, I went home. I got me a belt, put it on the doorknob. I said, I watched him dance over there and got them steps down in my mind. I took that belt hanging on the doorknob, and I started learning how to shag. I said, that's how I learned how to shag, with a belt on a doorknob. I said, when I got it down to where I thought I was fairly decent, I went back to Williams Lake again. I said, the next time I was out there on that floor, I said, William C. was standing up against the rail, and I was standing out there on the floor dancing with them girls. I said, I danced all I wanted to from then on. I said, them girls was asking me to dance from then on. I said, yeah, I got more memories of Williams Lake. Woo!
Ronald, we are so much alike, you have no idea.
They are good memories, good memories.
What's that? I'm interested in this. So when you had your own building products, metal products, tell me what some of the products you would sell to people.
I was big in metal products. I sold screws, wood screws, metal screws, all kinds of screws. I sold nails. I used to buy nails in America. And of course, everything went to, well, first of all, they went to Turkey and Afghanistan. When I first started going overseas, I'd have to go to Turkey and Afghanistan to buy nails and screws. I was buying it for somebody else then. Then later on, they kind of faded out, and it went to Taiwan. So I had to go to Taiwan and buy those same products. Couldn't buy them in America no more. They were gone. And then after Taiwan, China took over.
That's when China became a manufacturing country.
That's when China became a manufacturing country. When I first started going to China, scared to death first time I ever went to China. Didn't know what to expect in China. So I took $1,000 in cash with me.
What year is this?
This is 1991. Yeah, 91, 92. First year I went to China. I took $1,000 with me because I didn't know what to expect there. I knew that it didn't take $1,000 in these other countries, but I didn't know what to expect in China. Well, the exchange rate at that time, $1 US was worth 15 Chinese RMB, the yen. I hadn't took time to figure this thing out. So I check into the Cherry Motel in Shanghai, China. Getting my stuff unpacked, and I come back downstairs, and I go to every one of those hotels over there that's any size has got a little bank there that you can change money.
Currency exchange.
Yeah. So I go up to the desk, and I told the guy, I said, I need to change some US dollars into yen. And he said, oh, yes. How much would you like to change? And I said, I pull out 5 $100 bills, and I laid there on the counter. And he looked at them, and he said, you want to change all? I said, yes. He said, I have to go in the back. So he's gone. Finally, he comes back out, and he starts stacking money up on the counter. And he stacks 3 big old stacks of money up on the counter. You know, $15 times 500.
Yeah.
And he's stacking money up.
7,500 RMBs.
Yeah, almost 8,000 RBs on the counter. And I said, what am I going to do with all that? I had every pocket.
Yeah.
I had everything filled up. I stayed over there for 14 days. I think it was 14, may have been 15, but I stayed there 14 or 15 days. And when I left, I had almost all that money left. I bought 2 suitcases. I bought clothes. I bought all kinds of stuff and still had all of that money never got left. So I go back down there, and I've got the same amount of pocketfuls of money. And I said, I need to cash these back in, because I'm going home. And he smiled great big, same boy. He smiled great big. He said, I didn't think you'd need that. And so from then on, of course, over the years as it went, it dropped down to 12. Then it dropped down to 10. It dropped down to 9, 8. Now it's almost $1 for $1. I've got
that proves to you how weak the dollar has gotten in 30 years.
The dollar has got really weak. But I've got $1,800, 1,800 yens in my office at home right on the day. I've never cashed them in. I just happened to come home with them one time. But finally I don't know where I ought to tell this or not, but it don't matter now, it's too long gone. But I finally opened a bank account over there. Years later, after I'd been going for a while, I ended up with a Chinese partner. And we took and worked together for, 4, 5, 6 years, I guess. And finally, he calls me at midnight. It's 12 o'clock there. He calls me at midnight. John, don't call me at midnight. I'm in bed. Mm-hmm. Oh, I wake you up. Yeah, you wake me up. So he calls me one night and he said, I buy us a plant. Before I get into that, I'm working with him for a long time. We're not partners in that. We're just working together. And he's like an agent for me. So we're going out in the countryside, going up to houses, and they got a little lean-to out back, and they're manufacturing product, and maybe got 1 or 2 machines. Well, I have this rod chair order in. That's the rod chair is what holds, you know what it is. It's to hold rebar up to go in the foundations where they pour cement on. Well, I've got a rod chair order in. And it's been 3 weeks and I haven't been able to get. So when I get over there, I told John, I said, John, I need to go to his place. I want to find out where my order's at. I got to have my order. I'm running low in my warehouse. So we go to this little old lean-to outside of a shack, and they've got a machine running. One machine. And I said, ask him about my rod chair order. He's my interpreter. And so he asked him, and you got to keep in mind all the old people over there couldn't speak English. Now, all the young people, at that time, anybody under 30 years old was fluent in English. Anybody over on that, you forget it. So he asked him, and he says, well, he's just got so many orders. And I said, ask him how much one of those machines there cost. So John asked him. And John says, it cost 1,800 R&B. I said, 1,800 R&B? He said, yeah. I said, ask him, if I buy him a machine, will he run my orders as soon as they come in? And so he asked him. And this guy, little scrawny looking guy, is sitting on a stool. And he said, oh, he wants to be partners. He speaks English, but he ain't spoken a word to that. He wants to be partner. I said, yes, that's what I want to be. I want to be a partner. So then, of course, he still interprets everything for me. But I got to where I would buy machines.
Because they're cheap with your exchange rate.
With the exchange rate. I end up with hundreds of machines scattered all over China, different types of machines. Some of them
stamp a screw, some make a rebar chair.
I end up with a machine. I end up with some machines, it ends up costing me $8,000 to $10,000 American money. But I end up with, I own the machine.
Yeah, but it would have been $75,000 if you bought it in America and had to pay people $18, $20 an hour to operate it.
Well, at that time you could hire people for $9, $10, but there again, you could. We always thought that Chinese worked for nothing. That's why we bought stuff in China. That was very untrue. Most of these people lived off $300 US a month. $300 US a month. That's 4,500 RMB or yen. They won't nobody here making $4,500 US a month.
So you're saying the lifestyle and the value of the currency, even though they appear to be living in a shack, working under a shed in their backyard, in some ways they had more financial security than we had because of the amount of money they were making.
That's right. The amount of money that they were making was equal to the amount of money I made if you discounted the exchange rate. It was still the same, you know. And American was squawking all the time about Chinese was working for nothing, but they weren't working for nothing. So I ended up buying these machines. Well, John's buying at the same time. He's getting an idea from me, and so we're getting the product made for less money, but we own the machine. So John's helping me buy stuff. So we go into a partnership. We're buying machines, putting it out into here and there. And we ended up with probably a grand total of 150, 175 machines between the two of us. So time goes on. John calls me at midnight. Ron. I said, yeah. Hey, I buy us a plant. I said, what do you mean you buy us a plant? I buy us a manufacturing plant. We move all of our machines into our plant. I said, man, what are you talking about? He said, you come to China next week, right? I said, yeah. He said, I'll show you when you get here. So I get to China. He picks me up at the airport the next morning. We're going out and see this plant. Well, he's bought an impound. What he hasn't bought. He's like we are. You don't own land. You just have a deed to it that says it's yours, but you don't own it. You got to pay payments on it every year.
Yeah, that's China. China does. Nobody owns nothing but China government.
The Chinese government owns everything, but they will lease you property a piece of property.
As long as it's in their interest.
Yeah, as long as it's in their interest that you're going to pay taxes on, they'll lease you a piece of property for up to 99 years. That's what happened with Hong Kong. They had leased Hong Kong out for 99 years. That's why they got it today. The lease ran out. They took it back over. That's what happened at Qingdao. Germany leased a piece of Qingdao and the property around it for 99 years. When the 99 years was up, China took it over. They
don't have to renew.
They got the best beer in the world, and China owns it now. Qingdao beer. It's world renowned. But anyhow, we leave that morning. We go out, and he has leased this impoundment. It's maybe 200 feet by 200 feet. The walls is already built. It's got living quarters in it. It's got the manufacturing place wasn't there, but there were buildings, open building that was built. And that's why the government built it, to entice some company to come in there and get it. Well, I said, how long did you lease this thing for? He said, 99 years. That's the most I could. I said, son, I don't think we're going to be around that long. He said, no, but our families will. He said, as long as they pay the lease every year, it's theirs. Well, I can't lease nothing. I'm an American.
That's
my
right.
name can't be on it. I said, well, my name can't be on it. He said, I know, I take care of you. He said, you only pay a portion. I pay the rest. I said, okay. He said, we take it out of the company. We've agreement to a company. So we move all of our equipment from all over China. I mean, all over China. I had them in the South China, down in Fujian City. I had them in northern China at Herman, which is an ice hole. Mm-hmm. I had them in Qingdao, which is the East Coast. You can look across the bay and you can see Korea. I have them in West China in the mountains region. I have them all over. We have them all over China. We moved all of our equipment into that compoundment, and we started a stamping company. And we stamped all the product that we sold, that he and I sold. He sold all over the world. I sold in the United States.
When you say stamping company, explain to me what that is.
Yes, we put stamping machines in. Wayne knows what I'm talking about with a stamping machine. You have a product that's stamped out. You slide a piece of metal in.
Just like GM makes a fender, it mashes it
all into it, just in the size it wants. Everything's perfect, and it's the same thing every time it stamps. Well, we brought all kinds of stamping machines in, where we made rings, washers. We made all kinds of brick ties. I sold, you wouldn't believe, I sold tractor and trailer loads of brick ties. Mm-hmm. I sold tractor and trailer loads of tie rod chairs. Tractor and trailer loads of tie rock, rolls of tie rock, 20 rolls to a box. Tractor and trailer loads. I'd sell to distributors. Mm-hmm. And then they'd sell it out to building supplies. And I would sell some of the big building supplies and stuff. But we sold all over the world. When this thing took off, it took off like nobody's business. So I was getting so dang much money, I couldn't bring it into the United States because you couldn't bring over $10,000 of red flags. It's less than that now. You can't bring over 5 now. But red flags would fly. I couldn't bring $10,000 home, put it in the bank. Red flags would fly.
Like they think you're laundering money or illegal, like you're a drug dealer, basically.
You can't prove where your money's coming from. Mm-hmm. So shouldn't be putting this on tape probably, but it don't matter no more.
No, it's a constant problem. I think when Trump ran, he was trying to open up a way that companies could take a foreign entity address to. I think the public vilifies them as tax evasions, but basically it is because of bringing it back in fuels the money so much.
Well, I ended up opening a bank account over there. I still got money over there in a bank account today. I can't get it.
Why can't you?
Well, I'd have to go over there to get
to
it.
do it, but then you got a problem bringing it back in, and taxation and everything else.
Well, I don't have that much over there now. I may have $10,000 over there in the bank. I don't know. I've lost.
So how would it work? I know I'm on a tangent, but how would it work if could you wire money from your Chinese account back into your U.S. account, and that was okay, or no?
No, that would if I wired it into my account at the bank, I could do that. But the thing about it was, if I wired it in and it was more than $10,000,
it would set off an alert.
The IRS was told about it, you know. So what I would do, every time I would go, I'd bring back like $9,000 $9,500. When I went through customs, they'd want to say, "You got anything to declare?" No, I don't have anything to declare. Even if they checked me and they found the $9,000,
you didn't break the $10,000.
I didn't break the limit, so they couldn't do anything about it. So I had a big old safe deposit box at Fidelity up and done it. They're gone now, but I had a big old safe deposit box. I'd bring it home in cash. I'd go right straight to my bank. I'd put that money in there.
Because somehow you're selling stuff in the U.S., but you got to be able to pay the people in China for buying the raw goods, pay for that building, buy new equipment because equipment would break, wear out.
Well, see, that was where I was.
Employees, whatever.
Even though that I own half of the company over there, when I ordered product, I still paid for it just like I won't end it at all. I wired money to pay for the container, whatever was in the container. Container was worth $50,000. I wired $50,000 to our company. Mm-hmm. Even though I knew I was going to get part of it back.
Right, but you can't break that cycle.
But I couldn't break that cycle because I had been doing it so long and nobody won't watch him. So we just kept it up. And the money kept piling up. Well, I built my house in 1966. And when I say I built it, I literally built it. My wife and my daughter, which is my oldest child, us three built that house. It took us a year and a half, but we built it. Well, in 2008, I had always promised Betty that I'd build her a big den, a 20 by 24 den onto the house. Because we lived in a small house. We lived in a 1,000 square foot house. That's what I built to start with. 1,056 square feet is what it was. And I raised 2 children in. Mm-hmm. Children were gone. And one Saturday morning I got up and I went out putting battle boards up and running my strings. And Betty came out and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm fixing to start on that room." And she said, "Is it going to be that big?" Which was about the size of this room here. What's this, about a 20 by 24, something? And I said, "Yeah, this is what I promised you I'd build you one day." And she said, "I don't want this." And I said, "What do you mean you don't want this?" She said, "I want no more room to clean up." All right, I tore the battle boards down and put the cord string back up. So a couple of months later, I thought, I've been wanting to build me a bedroom on. I told Betty, I said, "I'm going to build us a bedroom on and another bath, and I'm going to put a wraparound porch around." And she said, "Well, now I'd like to have that." So I thought, I ain't got time to build this house, remodel this house. So I got a guy over here in the country, Wayne Rules, called him, he come over. And I told him what I wanted and everything, brought out what I wanted. And I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Give me a couple of days and I'll let you know." So he come back in a couple of days, he said, $33,000. I said, "It's pretty good. I built a house for $16,000. I raised my children in it. And that cost me $33,000 to build a bedroom on. Pretty good. Times have changed. But I had the money. I had the safe deposit box. I said, Bill, I'm going to pay you cash. He said, cash is good. Cash is always good. I said, all right.
You gave him a 36% bonus minimum.
And I said,
right.
I said, this is, you can turn it in or you can leave it off. I don't care. It don't matter. I'd rather for you not to turn it in. I don't want my name included in any of it. And he said, I can handle that. And I said, all right. So he built me a bedroom. He built me a 14 by 18 bedroom built me a big walk-in closet, nice bathroom, wraparound porch, everything that I got there now. And he come over, I was paying him a little bit along, when he needed to draw. So he come over there the last day and he said, all right, I'll be finished this afternoon. I said, I reckon you want the rest of your money, don't you? He said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm going to write you a check for this. And then he said, a check? I said, yeah. I laughed. I said, no, I'm just kidding. So I shelled him out the cash. And he said, Ronald, he said, good working with you. So he went on. But anyhow, it's, we go on another year after that. And I'm in China. I'm over there for 21 days, I believe, that time. In the meantime, you remember when the World's Fair was at Beijing?
No, I know the World's Fair. You know what I'm saying? Because that started in like the 1900s or whatever.
Yeah, goes to different cities in the world. I've been fortunate to go to 3. I went to the one in Knoxville, Tennessee, when it was there. I went in one up in New York, and when it was there, I was fortunate that I wouldn't ever want to go to another one. But anyhow, when the World's Fair, China was building, getting ready for the World's Fair. And I was staying at a hotel, and one time that I went over, the property across the road, there were shacks. It was probably a mile and a half long, 3/4 mile wide, or maybe a mile wide, all shanties. And I was there one time, and I looked out my bedroom, my motel window, and they were over there with bulldozers. Bulldozing that.
Scraping it clean so they can build for the fair.
Just tore all those houses, shacks, they won't never shack. They just wiped it clean. It just cleans that yard out there. And they took and after they cleaned it all off, they started getting ready for the World's Fair. No, the Olympics. I'm sorry, it wasn't the World's Fair, it was the Olympics. And for a year, every time I went, I watched them build the stadium. And the stadium came up, and as it started coming up, I thought, my God, that looks like a bird nest. And so I mentioned it to John one day. I said, they're not building a stadium, they're building a bird nest. And he said, a bird nest? He said, it does look like that, don't it?
That's how the architect designed it.
And so I thought, yeah. So for a year and a half, I watched them build, just getting ready for the Olympics. And this stadium is just across the road from where I'm at the motel. So John calls me one night and he said, Ron. I said, yeah. He said, I bought us a new office. We had an office in Beijing, and you got to keep in mind, China, if there's a building that's got 50 floors on it, the top floor is what everybody's wanting. They're not like us. If I'm going to rent a place in a building, I want it to be down ground level, so I don't have to cross. I don't want no stairs. Well, they're different. The higher you are, the more prestige that you are. So John says, I buy us an office. I said, what do you mean you buy us an office? He said, you know the buildings that was being built for Olympic City? I said, yeah. He said, well, one of the buildings is going to be office space, and I bought us an office in one of them. Well, we got an office in Beijing on 13th Avenue, and when I started partnering up with him, we had 4 people working there. Little old hole in the wall. Well, later on, we had to get a bigger place, and we ended up with 10 people. Well, we'd run out of room. We didn't have no more room. And we needed more people. And all of them was on the phone calling, getting orders and stuff all the time. Well, he says, I bought us an office. I said, you bought us an office? He said, yeah, bought us an office. He said, but you know worry, I couldn't get 45th floor. I said, how tall is the building? 45 stories tall. He said, I couldn't get 45. 45 was taken. I had to get 42. I said, what do you mean you had to get 44? 43, 44, 45 taken. I get 42. I said, the whole floor? Because these are big buildings. He said, oh yes, 42nd floor. You get it all. You buy it all. Yes, I buy it all. Okay. So I go back. He said, you no worry, we don't have to rent no more motel rooms. So, what do you mean no more motel rooms? I build you an apartment. I said, you built me an apartment. He said, I have you an apartment that's yours.
On that floor.
On that floor. And I said, well, all right. So the next time I go to China, we go over. It's got an elevator in it, thank the Lord. But we get in the elevator. We go up to 42nd floor. We get out. We go in. Humongous office. He's got 21 people working in there. All right. He says, come let me show you your apartment. So we go over, and in the corner of that 42nd floor, he's built me a 3-room apartment, full bath, full kitchen. He's fixed everything, just like I'm at home. Man, this is all right. So I don't have to rent no motel when I'm in Beijing no more. Now, when I'm outside of Beijing, it's a different story. But we messed around for another year after that. And I'm over in China. It's in December of 2009. And I fly into Beijing. And he takes me over to his apartment. He don't have a driving license. He's got a chauffeur. He's never learned how to drive. His wife does. But
he's made enough money over there. It's no big deal to him. He just pays somebody to drive him.
He's got a chauffeur. So we head to the office that night. We get over there and we go into my apartment. And I put my suitcase and everything in. He keeps hanging around. I figured he'd be gone by now. Finally, he said, I need to talk to you. I said, all right. What do you need to talk about? He said, you know, my daughter's she's growing up fast. I said, yeah. She's about 10 now. And his father is the head of the Red Army. His father-in-law. His father-in-law is the top guy in the Red Army.
General or something?
He is the highest guy that is in it.
Well, y'all were watched whenever y'all moved left and right, didn't you?
I'm talking about big time. But now he come off of a farm. Earlier in the time that I was there, I mentioned I was raised on a farm. And he said, you raised on a farm? And I said, yeah, that's where I grew up. And he said, don't that make you feel bad? I said, man, I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud to be a farmer's son. And he said, oh, I'm not. I said, what do you mean you're not? He said, I was raised on a farm too. I mean, bashful. I was raised on a farm too. I said, man, that's something to be proud of. He said, no. So farmers the lowest on the totem pole. I thought, my Lord, if it weren't for the farmers, you couldn't eat.
Ain't it amazing how we kind of view it, our society's doing it the same way now?
The highest is the lowest, and the lowest is the highest. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, I ended up visiting with him with his mom and dad. And that's something that don't happen. I mean, Americans don't go visit ancestors. You know, it just don't happen. I even spent a couple of nights at his mom and dad's house over the years, you know. But anyhow, he told me, he said, my daughter's getting up in age now, and I want to be able to leave her something. I didn't know where he was coming from. And I said, what are you getting at, John? Just go ahead and spit it out. Spit it out. I'll either agree or disagree. That's how easy it is. Well, he was him-hawing around. Mm-hmm. And he said, Ron, I'd like to buy you out. Would you consider being bought out? I said, well, John, I don't own nothing here anyhow. It's just me and you. We just have word of mouth. We have no paperwork. I said, it's just our friendships what keep us together. I said, I don't own nothing here anyhow. They can't take nothing from me because I don't have anything
to take.
And I said, but yeah, if you want to buy me out, I will agree. I'm fixing to retire anyhow. I'm getting to the age I'm fixing to retire anyhow. And I said, I tell you, whatever you think it's worth, I don't care what the number is. Just you tell me what you think it's worth. Write it down on a piece of paper. And if I look at it and I think it's worth that, it's yours. If I don't think it's worth that, we'll negotiate a little bit. How's that? He said, that's good. He takes a piece of paper and he writes a figure there. And he slides it across my table. And I turn it over. I said, it's yours. He said, I'll have your money in the bank tomorrow morning. I said, not in the U.S. bank. He said, no. I have it in your bank, here, in Beijing. I said, God dog, John, I won't never be able to get that money there. He said, I go to the United States twice a year. I'll bring you some every time I come, till it's gone. I said, all right. Every time John come, he'd bring me.
He can only bring it in under the 10 or 2, right?
He can only bring it in so much, Every time he come, he'd bring me $9,000, $9,500. For 5 years, every time he come, he brought. Well, then this depression hit.
2008 was a rough time.
Oh, well, 2010 was rougher than that. So.
It took longer for y'all to slow down.
And then 15 and 16 over there was terrible. And poor John lost everything he had. I'm talking about everything he had.
Is it from having, because he's manufacturing stuff he can't sell, or do you
Both.
think it's the big boy stepped in and said, no, you can't be this?
Well, he was manufacturing stuff he couldn't sell. We had hired a family in this compound. We had hired a family that came in and lived there. They lived there, and once in a while they would go back home, wherever home might be. But it was a whole family. They had the old man of the family was the one that did all the talking and negotiating and everything. But we paid him, and then he divided the money out.
So it's almost like an industrial sharecropper.
That's what it was. It's exactly what it was. It was the same thing that my grandfather lived through, a sharecropper.
Amazing. But
it was a manufacturer sharecropper. But we paid our employees on an average anywhere from $250 to $300 a month. which in the beginning was a lot of money. But now, toward the end, when I stopped going over there, it was still 10-1, which was still a lot of money.
But it's 2/3 because it used to be 15.
Yeah, it used to be 15. But now I understand it's down to where it's almost $1 for dollar. You can have stuff manufactured in the United States now as cheap as you can have it manufactured in China, because you've got to ship it here. And shipping here is so much more. I never paid more than $3,000 for a container to come over here.
From what I heard, and you hear things, I was told that Nike and Amazon bought every available container to be manufactured for like 3 years, and you can't get one if you tried right now.
You know who bought them all when I was going? Walmart. Walmart had every container tied up that was available. And the only way that you could get a container was from a company that you were already dealing with, and you had to tell them how many containers you're going to ship this year. Like I had 30 a year coming.
But if everything got busy and you needed 45, you're still only going to get 30.
Right. Well, not necessarily, because they might have some more that they could let me have. But basically, I contracted 30 a year, every year. Now, if I didn't need but 20, I still had to pay for them other 10.
Even if nothing, we just pay for a spot to hold your spot.
I had to pay for that spot to hold that spot. So when I contracted for one, it didn't matter whether I used it or not. I was going to pay for that $3,000 to get it over here. It won't come, but
no, I get it.
But I had to pay for it.
You're paying a placeholder fee.
I had to pay for the spot, and that's what Walmart was doing. Walmart was getting every container that was available, period, and they were tying it up. Now, they may not be able to use all the containers they had tied up, and what they would do, if they couldn't sort it, they won't be able to use the quantity this month that they had wanted. They would sell them to somebody else
at a markup.
Somebody like me, if I needed that container.
That $3,000 container you needed shipped on an emergency now became $5,500.
Right, exactly. And they won't do emergency shipping. It took 30 days to get a container here. From the time it was shipped to the time you received it, you could count 30 days. Now, I could bring it in at Wilmington, and I brought a lot in at Wilmington. I could bring it in at Charleston, and I brought a lot in at Charleston. I could bring it in at Savannah, and I brought a lot in at Savannah. But I learned real quickly that I could have them shipped to Long Island, California, and have them shipped from California here on the rail. Cheaper than I could have them shipped into Wilmington.
Rail shipping works on if they know what's inside that container, they approximate a shipping cost to it. Mm-hmm. So like literally, I work for a lumber company. So if we have a big old load of lumber come in, it's pennies to have it shipped. If you put 3 gold bars in it, it'd be 20 times the price to ship it, even though the whole rest of that container
it didn't matter. And they valued that at my highest part. If I shipped a container that had 10 different items in it, they valued that at the highest price component that was in that container.
Yep.
That could give you your shipping rate. Now, if you really want to spend some money, is get it flown, have something emergency you had to have here, and get it flown in.
What's that, $20,000 to $30,000?
Oh, Lord. I had one pallet come in one time that cost me $19,000. One pallet. Of course, the pallet was worth $50,000.
Yeah, but you had to do it to save a customer, too.
I had to do it to save a customer. And I lost money on that shipment because I needed the customer.
But long term, you maintain the
customer. I made money the other rest of the time. Like Tractor Supply, I used to have implements made for discs, DSRs. Mm-hmm. Those are cast iron plates that was where they put in the disc in between and all that. Mm-hmm. The whole thing's through there. I used to sell that about container load to Tractor Supply. And Don, he's the head buyer up there, and he's trying to save money for Tractor Supply. He finds out who's the manufacturer for me. And he can do that real easy because when the shipment comes in, sometimes it's got a label, and he figures out who's it's coming from. So he calls them, and there's no friendship don't mean a hill of beans over there.
That's how I'm kin to Pat Godwin, but I actually worked one summer at Stone Fleet Pride in Garner. They ship heavy duty truck parts.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you lost your job? You get by with anything. But if you ship one box to Pat Godwin's place and it had a bill of lading inside it that was not their bill of lading, you're gone right there because they knew they lost it from there on out.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Stone,
well, Pat did that to me.
Pat, he used to order all kinds of stuff, probably the best account he ever had, and then he'd screw up and a kid would ship a box without double checking it, and then Pat take that lading off and he'd call Eaton Splicer and say, I want to go ahead and get these PTO pumps myself. I get 55 a month, whatever, you know, which is smart for him. Nothing against him, but it's also starts knocking out the middleman.
Well, see, I used to sell parts, trailer parts, shafts for the hydraulic shafts and all.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sell them to Pat. And that's exactly what happened. And look, me and Pat's been friends since 1964. We were friends all our lives. Yeah. And
my grandma, who half raised me, worked in Charles Parish Hospital with Pat's mama. And she remembered the Friday night that Pat come in there because they got paid, I think it was bi-weekly, Grandma said. And Pat went in there and told his mama that he needed $189 to buy a welder. And her check that week was like $208. And she handed him that check. He went and bought that welder and went over to the open air market and started his welding service. And Grandpa'd sent a truck or two down there and had it worked on or whatever. And that woman, you know, Pat loved his mama, but that woman never wanted for nothing else because when he needed, you know what I'm saying? Like when he was at
he looked after his family.
Yes,
now.
sir. Yes, sir.
I remember Crafton Tart. Do you remember Crafton Tart?
I've heard of him before.
Crafton Tart was the man that owned the open air market. He lived right behind the open air market on Joey Street. He had a little old lean-to shop, just like these people in China did when I went over there. He had a little old lean-to shop out there. Crafton Tart was the one that really put Pat in business. And Pat would tell you that.
So I go to Antioch in Irwin, and the Hamiltons and all that.
Oh, Donnie and all
that's Clay. So that's his grandpa, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So
they
like, I've heard the other side of the story too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Pat need a little bit here, help me out here to get through that.
I can remember along about 1966, 67, I was married then. And we bought all our stuff in the open air market then. Mostly everything, during A&P. But one night, me and Betty was in there about midnight. Because they stayed open all the time. We were in there about midnight because we knew there wasn't nobody going to be there, you know. And we come out, get checked out, and Pat's there with a check. Look, Pat couldn't cash a check in the town of Dunn. I'm serious. He couldn't cash a check in the town of Dunn because he had passed so many bad ones. And I ain't throwing off on him. It's just to show you how far he came.
Oh, no, yeah, it was a big struggle for him to get started.
It was a struggle. It was just like it was for me. I like to starve to death 3 years. But he came in there that night with a check. And the girl at the counter said, Mr. Godwin, I can't handle that now. You'll have to come back and talk to
manager.
And he said, well, Crampford won't be here till tomorrow. And he said, she said, well, you'll just have to wait. I can't handle that. Mr. Crampford told me to make sure to let him handle anything you brought him. He said, all right. So he left. And of course, we were right behind him, you know. Pull the car down there and start that way. And I said, man, that must have been some kind of check that Pat gave you. She said, no, I really wasn't that big, but I'm supposed to, Mr. Crampton's supposed to handle everything.
If she passed it, Crafton would be mad.
Oh, yeah.
And I get it.
And she said he's supposed to handle everything. Well, let me tell you something. The day that Pat Godwin left this world and died, he didn't have a problem getting a check cashed into town of Dunn.
You believe that?
He owned most of it.